online dating sites, and that's a guarantee. Visit us at ehplus.com/love or call 1-855-930-LOVE.
If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Call 877-319-6988. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Call 877-319-6988. Programming starting as little as $29.99, plus access to thousands of movies and TV shows. Stream to your TV, smartphone, or tablet. Call 877-319-6988. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get Dish today.
Here's all you need to know. There's a new cool way to sell your unwanted stuff online. It's buysellmakeoffer.com. Buysellmakeoffer.com. You're not going to believe it. Join the legions of web sellers and buyers who are turning to buysellmakeoffer.com today. Never pay fees again. For low monthly membership of $7.95, you can sell up to 50 items, and there's a 60-day free trial membership to get you started. You can even produce your own infomercial to sell your products and upload the video for the world to see. Go right now to buysellmakeoffer.com.
You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda at 106.5 FM, K293CF Moreno Valley.
Good afternoon. It's 4:02. I'm Di Rice with the very latest in live local news here on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. A Rancho Cucamonga care and lodging facility for disabled people has been raided after a former employee reported that the clients were being physically abused and neglected. Annalir home staff members Marcelin Sihotang, 36, and Rosalina Sihotang, 38, were arrested following the raid. Sheriff's Department found released surveillance video depicting the suspects hitting and pushing two clients, but authorities say there may be more victims. Marcelin is the administrator of Annalir Homes at 9760 Lemon Avenue. The facility is licensed to care for 6 clients. Authorities are still investigating the case. And Fontana police are leading the way with the Inland Empire's offensive against mailbox thieves who are bent on identity theft. An investigation took detectives to San Bernardino, where a quartet was arrested. Search warrants were served at a motel room, and residents turned up over 500 profiles containing true identities, stolen checks, and social security numbers, IP addresses, and other financial information. Tools for altering and creating fictitious checks were also located, including printers, computers, and blank check stock and ink. Those arrested were identified as Dwayne Goad, 43, his girlfriend Brittany Gund, Forrest Rowe, 45, Gregory Osborne, 48. Bail on each set at $1 million. Mail theft has become quite the epidemic across the Inland Empire. Inland Empire weather, sunny and nice, and we're getting warmer as the weekend progresses. Tomorrow's high is about 79, Saturday 80, all under a beautiful and sunny sky. It was a beautiful day today. Today's high reached about 77. Currently, we are at 73 degrees in San Bernardino. And looking at your drive, nothing but the normal stop and go on the 15 southbound between Jurupa and the 60. Also in Moreno Valley, stop and go on the 215 northbound between Alessandro and Eucalyptus Avenue, and stop and go through Temecula 15 northbound between the 79 Temecula Parkway and Winchester Road. That is the very latest with news, weather, and traffic on the station that leaves no listener behind. KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. This report has been brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council. Roughly 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year, but you can keep your family safer by cleaning with soap and water while preparing food. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Give yourself the investment of a lifetime. Enjoy this holiday season in a luxury estate home at Charleston Estates, the only new home neighborhood in prestigious South Redlands and smartly priced from the mid-800,000s. Charleston Estates features gourmet kitchens and California rooms that make holiday entertaining even more memorable. Homes reach 4,463 square feet with up to 5 bedrooms. Ask about our discounted HOA dues and move-in incentives, too. Visit MaliaHomes.com for details. That's MaliaHomes.com.
This is the YouTube Radio Show,
Guess who used to be a fat kid? This guy!
the official radio show that features superstars of YouTube.
Those breasts are amazing.
Take something that you can fix your lips into and just suck on it as hard as you can.
Attention, citizens of California. I can fly. I'm a reindeer.
Now, here's your host, the Porrman.
He's coming on. He's getting his coffee. He's sitting down. He's putting his headphones on. And there he is.
Did you run the jingle already?
Your intro?
Yeah, I didn't even hear it.
Okay, well, that's what I was talking to you about off the air. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. You know, it almost is perfect that the show starts out this way because we call this a YouTube radio show, and I've been thinking a lot the last couple of days. We weren't on live the last couple of days because this guy who got us all our guests, he and I got into a fight, and he canceled all the different guests that we had all set up for about the next week or so. But the truth is, I really think that I have gone in my career from #1 in Los Angeles 2 decades ago. Okay, so listen, I'm not globbing off of anything that's current, to what I consider now, and I've been saying this on my Facebook page and also on Twitter and everything, I honestly believe I have achieved from top to bottom. I think I have the worst radio show in America. And there's many reasons why. And so today I really thought I would get into this. Why have I deteriorated so bad? And then of course, as always, I always think, why am I continuing to do radio? And so these are some of the questions that go through my head. But I do believe that nobody, I don't think, except for maybe a few people, even tune into this show on a regular basis. I just think for whatever reason, things have just gone so far south. So I'm going to try and explain this to you. But before we do that, we're going to bring on one guy. Is Frankie McDonald with us yet?
No, he's not.
Okay, well, we're supposed to get a call from YouTuber Frankie McDonald, the #1 weatherman in America, who is just phenomenal. We've had him on 3 times. We're just trying to fill the show with any kind of YouTube stuff. Well, if we don't have him on there, I thought I would. Okay, this guy, his name is Rene Girard, and he runs a company called Beaufresh Media. And so this guy, I guess my Mr. Producer, Pat Matthews, hooked up with him, and he represents a lot of YouTube people. His biggest client is his daughter, who I forget her name. And Pat, if you remember, go ahead and text me. And so basically she became a YouTube sensation. And so the guy he's 50 years old, and he kind of gravy trained onto his daughter, who's got 1 million subscribers. And he didn't want me to say anything on the air about how much the YouTubers make. And he told me his daughter gets $30,000 for a personal endorsement of a product by having 1 million subscribers on YouTube. In the meantime, we're sitting around with just this disaster of a show that we're thinking. Everybody says doing a show called the YouTube Radio Show is a good idea. But at this point, I sit here every day, and, you know, the reason there's gaps and everything is because basically I'm talking to myself. There's virtually no listening audience. Everybody's gone away. The people even who watch on Ustream, they aren't there. So I thought I would play back part of our deal with Rene when he set up getting us YouTube guests every day was putting him on the show and letting him promote Beaufresh Media. That's his company that if you're become a YouTube star, he'll help make you money. In our case, we couldn't figure out what's he going to do to make us money. Because at this point, this show has one sponsor left. That's it. Ocean Honda. And by the way, I want to blow out a kiss to Ocean Honda. To me, to do a show where all I do is just talk to myself every day, it's like I'm in a good mood, folks, until, folks, all 5 of you, Todd and his blog, I'm in a good mood until I get on the radio. And then it puts me in a bad mood, and it shouldn't. It should put you in a good mood. You should be like entertaining and stoked to be doing it. And I am to the point where I really think radio is not good for me. And yet I keep doing the show. I don't know why. I mean, and it's nothing against the people that work at Kcaa. They're great. I love Fred, the owner, Mark Westwood. Sometimes can be a bit cantankerous, but he's a good guy, and he's a good program director, and he cares. Di's great. Everybody's great. I mean, well, Trevor could give me my website back, but we're cool. We've been friends forever, and we'll continue to be friends. But anyway, so I thought I would tell you why I think that this isn't working and can't ever work in this particular entity. Unless I call it the worst radio show ever, and then it just sucks every day, which it does. And I think I suck as a broadcaster. I think I've got all the way downhill to zero. But and I'm comfortable with that. It's okay. But when I interviewed Renee a week ago, and by the way, anybody can call in, all three of you that I know. Everybody who calls in, you know, when you don't have a show that has any listeners. It's 888-909-1050. Is Frankie there?
No, Frankie's not there, but his twin who was separated at birth had called in because it's his birthday and he wants to talk to Frankie. But anyway.
Okay, it's probably just one of the haters who fooled you yet again.
No, it's Mike Mahone who called, but he'll call back later and hopefully Frankie will call because.
You mean Mike from Menifee?
Is that Mushmouth? I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say that.
Mushmouth Mike, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how we know every caller though? It's really, and you know, but anyway, so I'm going to show you guys a couple things, and Di, you need to listen to this too because you'll relate. Because if you don't listen back to the show, you don't. I'm thinking the show is coming out one way, and then I listen back, I'm going, oh my God, this sucks.
Okay, have you really honestly listened to some of the shows?
Yes, I listened to the segments that I had today, and I just, okay, let me just, without discussing with you, I want people to hear this. The first one is my interview with Renee, who owns this media company. He's trying to tell us how a 50-year-old dude, an old dude from Canada, suddenly has become the expert on YouTube. And he's treating me like I'm some sort of like bastard stepchild, that I've never done anything in media, that I didn't do my own YouTube show 5 years earlier. I'm familiar with YouTube. I'm not Mr. Social Media or anything, but he treated me like, you know, like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go into Leisure World and I don't know one thing. What's the internet? Okay, I am just about to go into Leisure World, but the thing about it is this guy thinks that he's God's gift to YouTubers and everything else, and the guy's just full of himself, in my opinion. So Mr. Announcer Pat, who loves everybody, my producer, and I love him, and he'll be my producer, and you know, as long as I'm in radio, which might only be today, Pat. But anyhow, he said, why don't you put Renee on? He could talk about what's going on in the wonderful world of YouTube. So I'm putting him on, and I'm really into this discussion with him. And afterwards, all the haters, I call them, but the truth is they're truth tellers, are saying, God, that sucked. It was so boring. It was the worst radio ever because it was like an infomercial. And I'm putting him on, trying to pump this guy up. So I said, Pat, everybody's telling me what a boring interview this was a week ago. Can you get me a clip of this? So this is a clip of Renee talking to me a week ago. Do you remember when Renee was on, Di?
I do.
How much attention did you pay to it, in all honesty, before we run the clip so we can... Anybody who's tired, you don't need a sleeping pill. Just listen to the next 3 minutes of the show. But did it keep your attention?
I don't remember. He was on with a younger gal. I remember that.
She was on at the end, and he was the older dude who thought he was the coolest guy.
Well, I don't remember if that was the impression I got of him. I think...
Well, you don't remember anything about him. That's how impressive he was.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, well...
Why don't we do this? Let's retransport ourselves back to the wonderful non-memory of last Tuesday and give you 3 minutes and 31 seconds in the essence of the most boring interview I've ever done. And here he is, Renee from Beau Fresh Media.
Well, I think the first thing is that, like, I'm not only in YouTube. I'm in all the aspects of social media. So we're actually a social influencing company. We manage social influencers. Everything from YouTube star to someone who's on LinkedIn, for instance. We have a client who's on LinkedIn who's in the top 3 in the world with regards to LinkedIn. Or on Instagram, Snapchat, some things you've probably never even heard of. Vessel, and these types of things. What we try to do is we try to one, manage that clientele. 2, manage the brands out there that are out there. And 3, believe it or not, part of our role is to actually manage the parents of the clients that we have, because the majority of them are under 23 years old. And the majority of those children are those adults or parents don't even know what their children are doing or what they're getting into and who's taking advantage of them, to be quite honest with you. So our role is a lot of different areas. And on top of that, you're right, we are a disciple. We actually, most of my day is spent educating brands, educating parents, educating people on what this new medium is all about. And you see, Porrman, this is where the world collides, okay? This is where the world collides between mainstream and the media that I'm involved with today. The people that are doing social media are not the people that are interested in the money aspect of it, at the front of it anyway. And the reality of it is that they don't want to talk about the money. And can a lot of people make a bunch of money in the YouTube space? You know, a couple of years ago probably. Now there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people in the LinkedIn space and such. What you first have to do is you have to develop, 1, you have to develop something that's unique. 2, you have to be able to provide a message that people want to listen to. And then 3, you got to get the following. The particular person you're talking about has 30,000 people on LinkedIn, which is the maximum amount of people you can have on LinkedIn. But when she does a long post, when she posts something on her LinkedIn channel, she reaches 33 million people. Wow. And with that person, that particular person you're talking about, that person has about a 50-50 split of male and female young professionals. Now, she is the rarity in the sense that her clientele is over the age of 30 years old, because they're mostly young professionals. And on the LinkedIn world, you're right, it's mostly for business and such. But the point is that she can send out a message, right? She can send out a message to somebody, and it goes to 33 million people. And her story is that she wanted to test it for herself. So what she did is that she's a 46-year-old lady. She wanted to find out who her father was, who she never met, who she never knew, and never talked to in her life. So she did an experiment on her social media channel, LinkedIn, and did a video and said, I don't know if this is crazy, but I'm trying to find my father. All I know is that my mother met him in the Netherlands in whatever year it was, and that's all I know. And I have a name. And the name that she had was kind of like Smith in English, and so that's what it was. Within 24 hours, she found her father in Thailand.
Is it over?
It's over.
You know, when I listened to it off the air, it didn't seem half as long as when we reran the same amount of time on the air.
It seemed longer now, just now? Is that what you're saying?
What did it seem to you? Wonderful?
Well, it was a little distracting with all the snoring and the crickets and all that. That was a nice finishing touch, Pat. I think. Okay. It might be somewhat interesting. It's not riveting. Okay, that's how I feel. But you know, when I'm listening, I'm also doing things like I'll give you an example. Dave Lehrman calls. Hey, Di, blah, 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 blah. Hey, Dave, hang on. Dave, Di, hey, blah, 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 blah. So I've got to do that, handle that, and then I'm kind of in and out of what I hear. But I mean, it wasn't horrible. It just wasn't maybe riveting.
It's great if you have a bunch of people that are like 50 and over that you want to cultivate as your listening audience. Maybe.
Well, I think that's kind of the whole point. You want to kind of like transpose some of these radio listeners to be YouTube, to understand it more, as he was saying.
But here's the deal: is that right now we're talking, and you're missing the whole point.
Okay, what's the point?
Is that the whole point? Is Dave Learman calls. You how many callers call this radio show
but
that
when
are people you don't know?
Okay. Yeah, but that's any station. You have your core callers.
No way!
It is. You have your core. No, I've heard you say that you have regular call. You had regular callers at KROQ, and you know it. And
no, I did not.
Oh, yes, you did. You have.
No, I did not.
I've heard you say that before when you
had.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
There were 10 lines, and they would blaze nonstop. 10 freaking lines.
But you still had regular callers.
No.
I've heard you say it before.
No, we did not.
Remember that guy who used to call, la, 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 la? You have said it. Okay.
No, there were not regular callers. You've never worked with a station that was number 1 in the number 2 market. I have. No. There were always unique and different callers. Yes, sometimes people would call, again, but very rarely because you couldn't get through. The reason you can get through is the same reason there's only one sponsor. This is the worst radio show in America. Now, when we come back from our break, which is only one remaining sponsor, when I started this thing 9 or 10 months ago, we had 10, but they all left because they didn't get any business because nobody's listening, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm fine with it. I'm not going to have a meltdown. It's amazing. I mean, honestly, the celebration every day should be on how hideous this show really is. I mean, maybe we can do something with having this be the worst show and just get on there and try as hard as we can, and it sucks every day. So anyway, let's go to our one sponsor, and I'll give you another example of what you have to deal with besides putting on people to satisfy getting guests, and then the guy ends up canceling everybody because he doesn't like me. And after today, he's not going to like me even more.
This may come as a surprise, but Beatles-orama is in its 15th year of keeping the Beatles alive for a new generation. If you spent any time in the 60s, or if you're smart enough to know it was the coolest era for music, you're going to love us. Just go to BeatlesOrama.com and the player should start right up. We're also available on TuneIn, iTunes, Windows Media, and more. Once you tune in, you'll be hooked. Plus, you can join our Facebook fan club and follow us on Twitter. Be sure to bookmark it. BeatlesOrama.com. You know, the ocean isn't that far from the IE. Not when you're talking about Ocean Honda of San Juan Capistrano. It is well worth the drive. Great buys on all Honda models from the Fit to the Pilot. You'll get the best deals on wheels from Ocean Honda. And just to sweeten the deal, mention the Porrman and get a free iPad mini when you sell your car to Ocean Honda. Make the drive down the 5 to Ocean Honda off the Camino Capistrano exit. We'll see you at Ocean Honda. And don't forget to mention the Porrman. Hey everybody, I'm Pat Matthews, Mr. Announcer here on the Porrman Show, and I'd like to let you know about my services. If you're in the need for voice work, whether it be for commercials, narrations, or even having your personal or business voicemail professionally done, I'm the guy. I promise quick turnaround and great rates. Check out my Facebook page at facebook.com/Pat Matthews Productions, and that's Matthews with 2 T's, or email me at patmatthews@cox.net. I'd love to work with you. Thanks for your time, and you have a great day.
Okay, what's going on right now behind the scenes is something that you people listening are not hearing. You're hearing something completely different. And I realize that because one of the problems I've had with this show is I don't listen to the old shows. And today when I was putting this show together, I realized what was wrong. And I'm Skyping my show in. I'm not in a regular studio. So before we get into really the most difficult thing about this, besides, and I'm going to put Dave on in a minute, anybody else who wants to call, I give out the phone number. We get one call if we're lucky a show. It's the worst radio show ever. There's no audience interaction. There's, maybe 5 people, everybody. It's great. It's great if you don't want to make a living. And I'm sure the owner of this station doesn't want to make a living. Fred and I have talked many times. Yeah, of course. I don't want you to make any money. So Renee, this guy who I just ran the most boring radio interview ever, he was talking about this woman who's big on LinkedIn. Now, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm sure a lot of people are on LinkedIn. It's like a business site. And he's claiming whenever she says anything, 33 million people hear her. So I asked her on the air when she's on in another horribly boring interview, how much do you make? And she won't tell me. He won't admit that his daughter's his biggest client, Renee. Oh, don't say my daughter makes $30,000 an appearance. Dude, okay, we'll put you on. You can tout your stuff. And so anyway, this is what we're hoping in exchange. So I'm taking you behind the scenes. He's not paying us. He's getting us guests to continue our format of the YouTube radio show where we become like the Jimmy Fallon of YouTube. The only problem is I'm not entertaining like Jimmy Fallon. I have no budget like The Tonight Show. Not saying that would make a difference, but it would help. It would help to make 12 million like he does. But anyway, so we're trying to do the same thing with YouTube from the ground floor up. So we started the YouTube radio show on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to it, just go to find the YouTube radio show and subscribe. So we started that September 11th, which is probably not the best day or the best omen to start your new show on the anniversary of one of the most tragic days in American history. But we did. We got 150 subscribers within the first week or two. We now have 211 subscribers. So in the last month to 5 weeks, virtually nobody has subscribed unless I put it on my Facebook page or Pat puts it on his or whatever. And then all of our recent interviews with YouTubers who, a lot of them have millions of subscribers, nobody comes to our page to listen back to the interviews. So for instance, the guy from Rich Kids TV, he was on a couple weeks ago. He gave away $10,000 each to 3 homeless people. He gave away a Corvette. He gives away money. He wants to come back on and give away $100 grand or some big amount of money and prove that this is really real. So he has almost 300,000 subscribers every time he makes a video. Guess how many views Dre from Rich Kids TV has on our channel?
On your channel? None.
Come on.
Okay. Views on your channel. I have
views on our channel from his interview. His interview was put on there with images behind it.
It's 20,000.
No, I'd love 20,000.
22.
That's close. 36.
36.
36 views in a week. And and he promoted us. So I'm sitting there. The reason I get in an argument with the guy who was a Snorefest in the last segment, the guy who's getting us guests, I said, look, the guests are not, they're saying they're going to be on KCAA, and hopefully KCAA's numbers are going up, but not one of them is saying you can listen back to this broadcast on the YouTube radio show YouTube channel. None of them are saying it, and I was getting annoyed because they're just not doing it. Like the other days, Diarrhea or Dan and Rhea, when they came on, and they're going to be in the next segment, by the way. They have 5,000 subscribers. They did a little video on their YouTube page saying they're coming on, but there was no mention of either me or the name of our show, the YouTube radio show, or our YouTube channel. None. And we're sitting here with 211 subscribers dying. No sponsors on the radio show. Nobody's looking at the YouTube channel. And everybody's going, yeah, YouTube radio show, great idea. And then the typical answer is, give it time. Give it time, Jim. It'll get great. You just got to be patient. I've been patient on this station for 9 or 10 months. All my sponsors are going away to the point where I'm getting burnt out. I'm not getting burnt out, but this is the worst radio show in the history of radio. It absolutely is. It's trending in the other direction. Usually shows trend in the upward direction. This is trending in the downward direction. And people are going to say, well, that's not a good format. Well, we tried 100 formats. What is a good format? So anyway, the other day I talked to Renee. I was a little agitated. Pat was on the line. And so we put on Diarrhea, and we had guests scheduled for the next week and a half, right? He said, how did it go, Pat? Renee Girard, Beaufresh Media. I love him. Not. Egocentric dude. You're 50 years old. You're an old fart thinking you know YouTube. You don't. Just my opinion. Anyway, not that I'm a young guy, but I'm not claiming to know YouTube. I don't know garbage about it. I just want to interview people. I just want to do something that does something. Anyhow, so he immediately after we put his littlest people on the show, cancels everybody else because he was upset, I got upset. And so we lost all of our guests. Not that it would have made any difference. We still would have had only Dave Learman and Todd calling in anyway. It wouldn't have mattered. But so he quit. And there you go. There's a legacy. Now we have to hustle around, me and Pat, try to find guests again. There's a company called Full Screen that I guess is the biggest representative for YouTube channels. They're huge. That's the next step. But then how do you translate it to the radio? Or how do you translate anything to this radio show? Okay, so I want to go to the next reason why this isn't working. But first I'll put Dave Learman on. Is Dave our only call as usual, Di? Let's not sugarcoat it. Has anybody else called? I've given out the number a few times.
Hin's on the line too.
Ken.
Huntington.
Okay.
Huntington Henry.
Oh, and Huntington Henry.
Yep.
Isn't it great? Is anybody called that we've never talked to?
Not today.
Because no one listens. And you know, it's so funny. Well, let's go to the calls. Let's go to Dave first. And Dave, please don't do a ramble-on sentence. Like, try and listen back to me, and that's going to be part of what's going on with the next segment of the show that I'll explain. Dave, welcome.
Deal. Actually, I think failure radio, your personal trials and tribulations, are fascinating. I think the fact that you brought up this Renee guy and replayed him, that was the dial changer. The fact that you don't think you can be successful without calls. When we did our show in Australia, you didn't have any calls. Right now, the hottest story is that a major superstar has AIDS. I happen to know who it is. I think that would generate calls. I also happen to know that one of the biggest radio experts has commented many times that your behind-the-scenes drama is some of the most entertaining stuff in the world. So you got suckered by this guy, Renee. Move on from that and don't replay old garbage. That's my point.
Well,
no
it's
rambling.
Very
okay,
succinct.
All right. Who has AIDS?
Charlie Sheen.
Really? How do you know, dude? That's a huge story.
Well, Jim, do you remember, I think for 8 years, we pretty much cornered the market on gossip in Australia, and nobody called, but the entire continent hung on our every word. So when you yell at Di and say the phones aren't ringing, you know, the phones didn't ring in Australia, but they still flew you to Bali every year and paid you pretty handsomely.
But Dave, here's the difference.
Yes?
I did a report 2 times a week on a number of different stations, and you got me the gossip, and you were tremendous at it. And that's not a lie.
And
we
you
did
were
it for
tremendous
years.
delivering it.
Right. But the thing is we were on, I did my report on the Triple M network with huge rated morning shows and afternoon shows and night shows. I mean, the stations that I was on, my segment, it was just a segment where I did the Hollywood Trash Report, and you guys gave me the stories. And it was great, and we had a great time doing it. And yeah, I mean, and we both got paid, and it was great, and it was unique.
Content.
But it was a report. I mean, this is a whole
content.
Show. That's a difference.
But
so,
you have great content. Take, for example, that idiot you had on from Lycan. When you called her on the fact about how much money she made, that was great radio because she wouldn't say anything. Now, I love the bobblehead weather guy. He's got 8 million people that he talks to every day, right? But
no, he's got
makes
8.
no
He's
money.
got 60,000.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, no, I love him. I love him.
And makes no money.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it'd be interesting to see who videos him, even if he videos himself. That's Frankie McDonald we're talking about.
In front of him, he puts a camera up on a tripod. Have you watched his videos, Jim?
Yeah, of course.
Right. They're very simple. He puts a camera up. He's got special needs. He's developmentally disabled. You know, Doug was in a wheelchair. That was his gimmick. People relate to him. As Di said, his enthusiasm is contagious. That's what makes it great. But the fact that he gets numbers doesn't equal dollar signs. When you get in that zone, when you get angry like that, it's the best radio ever. But when you start rehashing stuff like when you played Radio Ambiance, Rene Goulet from Canada, oh my God, I just wanted to fall asleep.
Because
why rehash the crap? You got suckered. Move on. I mean, talk about, you know, what's horrible. I want to hear about your court case. I want to hear about the $83,000.
We settled, but I can't there's a non-disclosure.
Okay.
But everything's
talk
good.
About, you know, how you can't get it up, or, you know, Pat Matthews' miserable love life. Funny stuff like that. You know, don't be so, like, for me, when you sit there and you go, I am committed to having a YouTube guest every day, and then Diarrhea comes on, and you don't even watch Diarrhea.
Yeah, I've watched them.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, here, I could give you, and I'm not rambling, but I could give you a quiz, like, do you know who Jenna Marbles is?
Today you're doing better. Wouldn't you agree, Di? He seems more lucid today.
Yes. Much more coherent. I'm following you all the way. Thank you.
Right. I think the bottle has not been imbibed yet, Dave.
And it was funny, Dave, I got to tell you this. I just got to interrupt for a second. You were rambling on the other day, and you and Porrman were talking on top of each other, so I had to pull you down, and I put you on hold, and I picked you up to explain. And you were still just rambling away. You had no freaking clue.
I apologize. I mean,
oh, no,
I
it was
have
funny.
ADD.
Hey,
I apologize.
It made our day.
But I want you to admit something. Okay, so Charlie Sheen has AIDS. What was your other big? God, that's a shocker. But
wow.
I mean, you wouldn't doubt it. What's the next big story?
Well, Leah Remini is all over the everywhere because she quit Scientology, and you would think that that's really the big story. Well, actually, the big story is there's a sex tape of Tom Cruise that's being circulated, and the people at Scientology want to divert attention from that, so they're letting Leah Remini run her mouth off about all kinds of dark secrets about Scientology so that they can kibosh this Tom Cruise sex tape that involves him and another man.
Well, you were talking about that for years, about how Tom Cruise is gay.
I'm very good at what I do, Jim.
Now, with the thing with Charlie Sheen, has that not come out anywhere?
Well, the story broke yesterday. It was called a blind item. Steve Langford broke it, and it broke everywhere, but it basically said, huge Hollywood superstar has been diagnosed with AIDS. Now, for years, everybody knew that Charlie had Hep C. And as Magic Johnson proved, you can have AIDS and live a long life, but nobody is saying it's Charlie Sheen, but I know for a fact it is Charlie Sheen.
How do you know for a fact?
I have sources in doctors' offices. I have sources in blood labs. As Jim, well, actually, I'm not going to ramble. I will let Jim, since you weren't there, Jim, let Di know what we did in Australia and let her know why I'm an expert on gossip.
We used to talk about Arnold and all his orgies that he had before he married Maria and then eventually did the housekeeper.
How about Sylvester Stallone's bilge pump?
Right, yeah. Sylvester Stallone had a steroid problem, and he used a pump. Maybe still does. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, anybody who had a steroid problem, their testicles shrink to the point where their penis becomes not functional.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, I can get it up. Okay, don't confuse me with my producer.
No, you can get it up. I know. I used to hang out at your place. I mean, you used to be a sexual dynamo.
Right.
That just didn't sound right.
Yeah, he wasn't
Tim was a
naked
boy.
with
I mean,
me.
it was 12 years ago, but, you know, when you're good, you're good. When you're in a dry spell, you're in a dry spell.
Right, but
I mean,
let me just explain this, and then Dave, I got to take a break here. Dave and I were not naked together doing
Never,
each other.
never.
Okay, he does
But
not know
he did
that.
get mad
'cause
at
I-
me for sharing a shower with his ex-wife's sister.
Right, you did not pick up the soap, and I entered Dave.
But see, Jim, that's when you put yourself down about not getting calls. The thing is, a lot of people time shift and they listen to it on the internet. Like, for example, I was yelling at Di because I listen to it on the phone, so I can't call in. So I miss part of the show when I'm listening to it on 832, that number. So it takes up such valuable airtime when you're begging for calls. I mean, when you're just you, I call it lunatic fringe radio. It's better than Radio Hindenburg. When you're off your rocker, man, you can't beat it. And then you get mad at guys like, you call them hater bro. This is your loyal fan club. This is the loyal fraternity of the Porrman. You should embrace them.
Exactly.
And trust me, you still got it. And you never, ever bring up that magic you had in Australia. That was all you, baby. That was all, well, and my content, but your delivery.
Yeah, no, Dave doesn't put himself up there. His stories, anybody could have done it with those great stories, like just what he said now. All right, we got to take a break. Thanks, Dave.
All right, have a good show, Jim. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll come back with some other callers, and then I want to play one more piece of Snorathon for you, so stay tuned.
You know, the ocean isn't that far from the IE. Not when we're talking about Ocean Honda of San Juan Capistrano. It is well worth the drive. Great buys on all Honda models from the Fit to the Pilot. You'll get the best deals on wheels from Ocean Honda. And just to sweeten the deal, mention the Porrman and get 3 free oil changes with the purchase or lease of any new Honda. Make the drive down the 5 to Ocean Honda off the Camino Capistrano exit. We'll see you at Ocean Honda. And don't forget to mention the Porrman. This may come as a surprise, but Beatles-orama is in its 15th year of keeping the Beatles alive for a new generation. If you spent any time in the 60s, or if you're smart enough to know it was the coolest era for music, you're going to love us. Just go to BeatlesOrama.com and the player should start right up. We're also available on TuneIn, iTunes, Windows Media, and more. Once you tune in, you'll be hooked. Plus, you can join our Facebook fan club and follow us on Twitter. Be sure to bookmark it. BeatlesOrama.com.
Okay. We want you guys to at least call Ocean Honda, our one sponsor, because it's a big Honda dealership, and Pat Matthews, my producer, scored this sponsor. They're on for 2 months. That's the other thing. I can't leave and blow a sponsor apart. So that's the reason I struggle. I got to stay on here because I don't want to screw over Pat, who's my good friend besides my producer. And Pat has a tough time making money himself, and they've given him like 2 or 3 Hondas at just amazing deals. And it's really weird how small this world is. A guy I used to work with named Swedish Eagle, his brother-in-law, Frank Roca, is the finance manager at Ocean Honda. It's in San Juan Capistrano. So if you need a car, it might be worth your while to just contact him, say you listen to me, and ask Frank if he can get you a deal on either a new or a used Honda if you need wheels. So there you go. Ocean Honda in San Juan Capistrano.
And yeah, the drive is nothing compared to how much time you actually spend at the dealership. So.
Yeah, and if you can get a deal, I mean, would you go? I'd go anywhere to get the deal, wouldn't you? In Southern California,
right. I mean,
if you got a really good deal on a car.
To do the paperwork and everything, it's going to take you several hours anyhow. May as well just enjoy the drive down there and then make a day out of it, you know? Get down there early.
I'm getting a lot of texts, too, by the way. But
Henry's still on the line, yes.
Who is?
Henry.
Oh, okay, let's put Huntington Henry on. Let me, like you said, what did you tell me off the air?
And I've told you this before. I've said the same thing that Dave has said, that you need to embrace your callers, your listeners, your true fans that you do have. And I always thought that it was a good idea for you to include them in your show. You know, like Rick Dees had his cast of idiots. So you have your cast of, mental retards. I don't know what you want to call them. But I mean, they all have good things to say, and we can get mad at each other, and people love that drama. It should be a radio reality thing because that's what you're good at. That's what you're good at. And then if you were here in California more, if you were here, you come out, do some things in the Inland Empire, you can build that back up.
Well, I'm going to be in California more. I have 2 more nights here in New York, and then I'm moving. But thank God we settled our situation here.
Well, good.
I can't tell you the details because there's a non-disclosure, but yeah. I'm grateful. That's all I can say.
Well, and so be grateful for everything that you do have in radio. You do.
Right.
You have me who's going to put up with you no matter what. No one else will.
Is that true? Nobody else at the station wants to even have a part of this?
No, you're okay. Let's be real. You're difficult. You're difficult sometimes. You're neurotic. And it expends a lot of energy from the person who is listening. That's all.
Then why do you do it?
I still love you. I still do. I just, you know what? I'm a people person, and I see the good. I see what you can be. I understand you. That's all.
Well, and I love you too. And honestly, I'm trying. Believe me.
Oh, now the calls are coming in like crazy.
Right. Well, the thing about it is, this is what you learn too. You don't want to, I do some other stuff besides radio, and I guess at some point you have to take a big dish of humble pie, and you got to think outside the box, and I do. Where do I want to just be an egocentric, a-hole, or like, oh, I'm really cool because one time I did this, or do you want to be just a regular guy and try to keep yourself down to earth and not be better than the next person? And that's, believe me, I'm not stupid, and I think about that, and it makes me mad sometimes when I become difficult.
But here's another thing. Okay, you talk about people living in the past. Oh, they want you to do radio from the past. They want you to do this. They like music from the past. La 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 la. Well, what's so funny is that you want to produce the same kind of show that you did in the past.
No,
nothing stays the same. Nothing stays the same. Well, you want to generate the same amount of callers. You want to, be number one. That's fine. It's fine. But you have to work with what you have. And this is what you have right now. You have Kcaa Radio. We're also on the FM dial 106.5. All right. If you're coming back to California, that's great. We should do some live remotes from out here. I mean, it would be fun.
Yeah, I agree. We should. Well, before we get too off track here, and I want to take the calls, I do want to play this one other piece of sound from just the other day.
Right.
We had Dan and Rhea on. Now, they were the last guests that this Renee guy put on the show before he just canceled us completely, which was really unfair, in my opinion. I'm sure he has his own reasons. But this is the other thing that I think we grapple with behind the scenes. Now, to you people listening, this is where we're talking about sexually transmitted diseases, but it's not the content of what we're talking about. It's the idea that, and maybe Di is kind of alluding to it. I'm doing a show on Skype, and when I'm hearing, I don't hear the calls really well because I'm on Skype. Di sounds the best because she's on the microphone at the station where everything is emanating from. The calls are coming into the station. So I was shocked when I heard this. Pat, my producer, said, I think it's uncomfortable that you're talking to these young kids about sex. And I thought, well, maybe I'm coming off as a creeper. But then I listened and I said, it's going to come off that way. But the truth is, when you hear my voice, it sounds like I'm in an echo chamber. Then you hear Di, who's got to answer all the phone calls at the same time everything's going on. So she only hears part of the conversation because she has to screen the calls, run the controls.
This isn't the clip
mic.
that you have, Jim. Oh, God.
What?
Nothing.
Right. And so Di gets part of the conversation. Then these two guys are on the phones. They're talking over each other, and I can't hear them. And I think that hurts the show because nobody. If everybody could hear everybody, I think it could be more smoothly brought along. So here's a segment of us. It's 3 minutes long, but okay, just when you're listening, remember I can't hear them barely. Then I ask, it's just a mess. And this is what part of the reason I think that the show has trouble. What's the age of sexual consent in Canada?
16.
16?
I love how you know that, Dan.
Oh, I'm sorry. We learned it in school. Thank you very much, Rhea.
What is it?
It's 16.
Wow. So in Canada, a guy who is 50 could boink a 16-year-old girl, and it would be totally legal.
What if I feel like this is wrong? No, I'm pretty sure it's
probably wrong.
No, I'm pretty sure it's 16. Oh, no. I think it's you're not allowed if you're older 18. You know what? I'm totally butchering this. I know you're not allowed to have sex under 16. That's all I know.
But like, have you ever seen a 16-year-old guy or girl?
Not stopping anybody.
What?
They said that the age restriction is not going to stop anybody.
Right. But have you ever seen out in public, like having a romantic dinner, a 16-year-old girl and a 58-year-old guy?
That's pedophilic.
You're definitely wrong. It's
but like an 18-year-old can be with a 16-year-old because that's legal. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm pretty sure even if the girl is like 21 and the guy's 65, still a little bit pedophilic in my eyes.
Why don't you guys, somebody research Canadian law that's listening right now and let me know what the legal age of consent is in Canada. In America, I think it just depends on the state, doesn't it?
I have no idea. You're asking the wrong person.
How did we degenerate the conversation to this?
Canada.
Say it again, Rhea. I, for some reason, I'm stepping on you or you're stepping on me. Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
No, I say it's definitely 18 in States and Canada.
So it's not 16.
No, definitely. I don't know what you're
I'm
saying.
pretty sure it is. I'm standing by that decision.
Okay, this is what it says. Listen.
That 16 is the age that your parents can consent to get married.
Okay, who the hell's getting married at 16?
Okay, Di is...
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I heard the number 16 being thrown around. Not to say I have. I'm just saying I heard that number being thrown around while in high school. I'm going to stick by that number.
Yeah, I can just see it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, here's the difference. Dan is partly right. It says the age of consent for sexual activity is 16 years. It was raised from 14 years on May 1st of 2008 by the Tackling Violent Crime Act. However, the age of consent is 18 years where the sexual activity exploits the young person. So that means prostitution, pornography, and stuff like that.
Well, okay, let's say there's
like illegal at any age, unless you live in like some parts of Asia. Well, I'm being honest.
I think your next video, you guys ought to explore that legal age in Canada. Okay, we're back on live now. This is a mess because I can't, behind the scenes, just to let you know, Di talks to me off the air or during our one commercial sponsor break, and I talk to her and I can hear her, but once we're on the air, it's because I'm Skyping, I can barely hear. Like today, I'll tell you exactly what's happening. Like when that was playing, I can barely hear it for whatever reason. There's a million different sources, so I'm not hearing them on that particular thing. Di is answering phone calls or running the controls, or maybe people are running into the control room to talk to her. So she jumps in whenever she can. Those two are talking, Dan and Rhea, and I'm not really hearing what they're saying. So it creates a mess. I think a way to improve this is I really need to have my own studio, or I can't come to the Inland Empire every day because I'm in Newport Beach. But at least if there could be a regular studio as opposed to Skype, I think that could improve the quality of the show, and that's a technical issue. But you guys don't understand because you're just hearing, and then also it sounds like I'm echoing. Like here's the host of a show, he's echoing on a mic, and then Di pops in, and she's the one who's clearest, and the people on the phone are being smashed down. But I think it's my fault because I just need to somehow, if I'm going to be in control and do a show, I need to be able to hear everybody and sound clean. And I think that's a problem. Huntington Henry is on the line. Henry.
Hey, Skipper, what's up?
Okay, see, I'm putting you on here, my man. Go for it.
I just want to know why do you depend on these YouTubers to get you guests? I mean, why is it so hard not to just private message a couple of YouTubers you like on there and line up a few people, and that way you don't have to wait for the one person?
You know, if Pat Matthews is listening, you got to call in and talk to Hank. It's a nightmare to organize these YouTube guests, Henry. I swear to you, it's so hard. You have no idea. You would think it would be easy, but they're a nightmare, a lot of them.
Okay, but are you actually putting out some private messages to their YouTube channels and tell them to contact you or anything like that?
Yep, tons of them.
You are, huh? And you're not getting nothing?
We're getting occasional people. Like tomorrow we got Friday Night Cranks again. Monday I've got Cooking with Jack. And so, I mean, we got a couple people. Then we want them to promote us too because it's a mutual thing. If they don't promote us, we'll go along with it. But for some reason, it's really, really difficult.
What I'm hearing, a lot of those YouTubers call in, don't even know who they're talking to or what station they're on. Have you noticed?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Pat maybe needs to talk directly to them and on the phone. But see, if we go through that middleman, he wasn't, whatever message he was getting was probably because we were a little confused in what we wanted. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, of our YouTube channel, we have got one that's got more than 6,000. We got a guy who said that Michelle Obama's a transgender and that McDonald's has meat from young children slaughtered in dungeons. That's got the most views so far.
I remember that one, yeah.
Anyway, Henry, good to talk to you again. Call in anytime. I mean,
okay, thanks.
Okay, and last but not least, Jay from Moreno Valley. Jay.
Jay, are you there? Hello, Jay. Jay?
Jay is gone.
Jay.
So how many total calls do we get today?
3? I don't know.
3. So there's a lot of theories, like Dave's saying, well, you should just be dramatic and everything. I've been dramatic on and off for so long. That hasn't worked. Just talk regularly, embrace what you have. These are all theories. It's like a batter in a batter slump. At the end of the day, I've tried all these different theories. Nothing has really worked. So that's the problem. Look, if anybody really believes one of these directions will work, well, why don't you pay us or sponsor us? At the end of the day, they're just, I really believe this will work, or I really believe this will work. I think I have the worst radio show in America because nothing works. And until something changes, when I give out the numbers, 3 people call in, and I'm fine taking the calls from everybody, and I don't mean to offend people because I don't want to be an egoed out guy, but I'm just leveling with the few of you that do listen, and there are just a few. We're down to one sponsor. Nothing has worked. Everything that's been brought up, I've tried, and I would do it full time if it started getting some heat, and when things are getting heat. But the technical issues don't help either. So anyway, thanks a lot. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll see what happens.
You have a guest tomorrow. Who?
Yeah, Friday Night Cranks. Jared, he's going to be playing some of his cranks, but he hasn't gotten back to us, so maybe we won't have anybody. So we'll see.
All right.
This is KCAA Loma Linda, the station that leaves no listener behind. CNBC News is next, a courtesy of buysellmakeoffer.com, where you can post a video about items you have for sale. Sign up now. It's free.
I'm Tom Busby, CNBC Radio. Expecting a big battle in Congress, President Obama is trying to rally hundreds of thousands of merchants who sell their goods on eBay to back the proposed Trans-Pacific Partnership trade agreement between the U.S. and 11 Pacific Rim countries, telling them it'll preserve a free and open internet and be good for their businesses. This November slide in the markets continued today with the Dow falling 254 points, the Nasdaq down 62 as oil prices fell sharply and some top Fed policymakers laid out the case for hiking interest rates at their meeting next month. With all the turmoil from the markets lately, lender Loan Depot decided to put off pricing an initial public stock offering today. The government kicking off its new budget year with a $137 billion shortfall for the month of October. And Campbell's Soup is recalling 355,000 cans of SpaghettiOs. That's after some red plastic pieces were found in a few cans. Tom Busby, CNBC.
There are no guarantees.